Call this meeting to order. Roll call. Council at Large Boots. Here. At Large Spear.
Here.
Council Ward number 1 Leeper.
Here.
Ward number 2 Anderson.
Here.
And Ward number 3 McNeil.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, so now to the unscheduled agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing that there are none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Boots with the first.
Second.
And Anderson with the second.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Alright, so that has been approved. Now to the unscheduled communications. If anybody wants to address the city council, Mary Swan, if you wouldn't mind your name and your address for the record.
I'm Mary Swan, 1110 Plum Street. I'm Margie. I was frustrated at the work session that there was nothing on the agenda for the public to speak when I thought there would be. And it was also very hard for the public to hear what Mr. Callahan was saying part of the time since he had his back to us. And I'm going to have a question when I get done here. So I made my little list of what I would like to see in a new city manager, and I would like to share it with you. I would hope it would be someone with much experience, someone older perhaps, looking for a spot to finish their employment, someone who would be willing to have less stress for a lesser salary, and maybe looking for a small town to retire in. To me, that would be the ideal candidate. Someone who believes in doing things 100% openly and encourages citizens to participate. Someone who will work quickly to change from the city manager overseeing the chief of police, change to the city manager overseeing the chief of police instead of the mayor. I think this job is far too important to be left to a mayor who oftentimes does not have any governing experience at all. And other towns, I think almost 100%, and Tim might know more about this than I do, I think almost all places leave it to a city manager or administrator, whichever they're called. Do you feel that way?
It's a mixed. It's
Is it
mixed.
really?
The state code generally requires that the chief of police report to the mayor, but there are cities where it's different.
We've had some unfortunate experiences the way we're doing it, so I think it's time to make a change. Someone who believes that there must be an ethical code of behavior for city employees, clearly defined in the handbook, and I think that's enough said. Someone who believes that 7 o'clock is the right time for meetings. Some of us sat under the canopy on the courthouse square for 18 Thursdays in 2015. Got mighty cold toward the fall. And I just can't tell you how many younger people told me they would love to come to the meetings. And then they look at you and they say, but I work out of town. I'm not even home at 5:30. And if I am home at 5:30, we've got 2 or 3 little kids that are screaming for their supper. I can't come to 5:30 meetings. Why on earth don't they make the time when people can come? So I think I've talked about this probably at least 4 times now. I hope the search will be extremely open, like surrounding communities. And I'm hoping that the finalists will be invited to a time set to meet the public and have the public interact with them. I think this is very important. Other places do this, and then they share, the public is able to share comments with the city council. And finally, I would like to see someone who would like to get rid of the airport, give it away, throw it away. It's simply hemorrhaging money. And I don't think Tipton can afford to hemorrhage money any longer. So, that's my little speech.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Larry?
Larry Hodgson, 210 East 6th Street, Tipton. A couple of things. Heard through the grapevine today that you have changed the timing and the location of the McClure meeting. So if that's true, was it not originally set for 5:30 at the elementary cafeteria?
5 o'clock is what I had this Thursday.
That's the original time you had set? Okay, because I may have misunderstood you at the last meeting. So 5 o'clock Thursday for McClure on the sewer report. That's good, as long as we're straight on that. Says I don't want to miss it. One last time, to speak to you about the school board bond issue that's up. Tomorrow's the election day. And I'm going to make one more appeal to all of you to consider supporting that bond issue. Being particularly council and all of us here are particularly concerned about Tipton, Tipton's growth, the strength of Tipton's economy, and the school is a very big part of Tipton's economy and opportunity for growth. So we need to keep our schools strong. There is no other workable plan available other than the one that this school board and administration has worked on for starting 4 years ago. In the last 18 months, they've gone through this plan with a fine-tooth comb. They have reduced some of the expenses, which appear to be a little bit extravagant, which weren't absolutely necessary. They worked this plan down to the bare bones of doing the necessary repairs for the elementary building and for the high school building, for adding security at all 3 buildings, and for adding the space necessary to provide adequate educational opportunities for kids in the middle school, the elementary area, and allowing a little bit of room for growth. So I think that's what we want to do, is look forward, look to the future, and keep Tipton growing, keep our schools growing by providing a good educational opportunity, which our administrators and teachers are doing, and by providing great facilities. As residents of Tipton, it attracts people to Tipton, to the school district, and will help keep Tipton growing. So I appreciate your support. Anybody in Tipton lives in the Tipton School District, appreciate it if you get up to the courthouse tomorrow and vote for this bond issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Actually, I got 3 things I'd like to talk about.
Name and address.
My name is Tim Alon. I'm Cedar County Emergency Manager. And I'd like to talk to 2 of them about that. And then my address is 103 Elizabeth Drive, Tipton, and that will be my 3rd, which actually still should be under the EMA. But the first one I want to talk about is we have a meeting coming up February 16th on the hazardous mitigation plan. I know the mayor is going to probably be teaching school, but I hope to have someone off of this council or someone to represent this council and some of the department heads and citizens come to this meeting. It's 1 to 4 o'clock. It is an annual requirement on the hazardous mitigation plan to maintain your status to receive federal funding. All right, this is a change to how we used to do things in the past. In the past, you used to get what's called in-kind for attending. That is gone. You will start paying cash unless you do something with your plan and show you that you are actively pursuing your plan. So we're having that February 16th at the courthouse in the large conference room. I've sent out some emails and asked you to review your plan to know what you're going to talk about. And please review Chapter 4. It talks about all the things you said you were going to do. And Chapter 5 talks about what we're going to do. Is there any questions on that? One down. Second standard is at the 911 meetings we've had for the last couple months, we've talked about taking EMS and fire to the digital world. So the P25 digital world and the 911 board unanimously decided to take this to digital October of 18. And And this was a request from some of the emergency responders. So I'm hoping with budget coming around that you are taking the appropriate action to buy the radios for your fire trucks, for your firemen, and for your EMS service. Because each handheld radio will cost you anywhere between $1,000 to $1,600. Each radio for your vehicles will cost you anywhere from $3,500 to $3,800. And then you have to have them installed, and then you're going to be paying for programming right before we go active. If any one community is not ready, we will not go digital, because it will be a public safety issue for emergency responders if we're not 100% digital. So, that was approached by the EMS and approved, and I did talk about the funding, and the mayors of every community, and Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, all voted this, yes, give us 2 cycles and we'll fix this. Scott will probably be the one to shoot me first, but I would say that you're probably in the $30,000, $35,000 range to replace radios in the fire department alone.
Less than that, but
Hopefully less than that. We will not touch paging. That will save you a ton. So, October 2018, please plan now. Whatever it is, you need to budget half of it this year. It is very critical. It's very critical on the statewide radio. If you haven't been aware of this, we are staying VHF. Now, if you think what I just said is expensive, if you want to jump to the state radio, I would tell you go for it. One handheld for the state radio is $5,000. You will have to put up 4 towers at $750,000 each. That is all on you, because in that proposal, those are enhancements, and those are on the jurisdiction. And I figured it out. It's about $9.5 million for Cedar County. That's why we're staying the way we are with a communication bridge. So it won't be as expensive. I just looked at it the long run. We cannot afford what a Des Moines, a Cedar Rapids, an Iowa City is doing. It's a very good system. Emergency responders have agreed that we've improved it, and we have some really good advisors with our mayors and fire and EMS to ensure we're going in the right direction. Okay. Questions on that? All right. The third one is a concern. I hold quite a few meetings out at the Law Center. And I go to quite a few meetings, City Council, not only in Cedar County, but our surrounding counties. I participate in the Clinton counties, the Jones counties, and all the counties' hazardous mitigation plans. And I honestly believe we have an issue. The road in front of the Law Center is a disgrace. And I'm not going to mention names, but when I go to other communities, they say, "You think our roads are bad? Go drive Tipton." That's embarrassing. Now, they graded it today, and I want to thank you, because it took the 8-inch holes, and there's not 3, 4. Go out and count them if you'd like. They're in the hundreds. To only, when they were 8 inches deep, not all of them, but there's a few, quite a few of them at 4 inches. Now there's only a few at 4 inches and quite a few at 2 inches. But when you think that that road is one of the primary entrances for your shovel-ready industrial park, how many businesses do you think are going to come? It's a disgrace. The guys from all over the state come to visit me and they go, "What? Does the city hate you? That road, you got to have 4-wheel drive to get through." It's horrible. Something needs to be done. And I understand if you grade it in 3 days, the holes are back. We took a section of about 8 feet that you had to patch, to now we got a quarter of a mile. upset about it. I think you ought to go talk to the new business in the business park down the road from me. I had an individual off your council come out and talk to me about it. And I was very happy he did. I've asked others if they've ever been on it. I've never had the time. It is something that needs to be looked at. If we plan on growing this community, one of the biggest things to grow it is industry. And we've been always saying we have one of the first shovel-ready industrial parks, and people come and look. I will tell you from experience, when I ran a Fortune 500 company, if I drove in a town that had roads like this, it would be automatically eliminated. One, it would tell me that my people are going to get taxes raised on them right away. Two, I'd worry about the infrastructure be able to keep up. Even if it had good, when you see that kind of stuff, you worry about it. And at this time, if you haven't drove that road, go out and drive it. You will bounce all over the place. And I'd like to, some of you go flying through there, I'm wondering how they're staying on the road. Because they go from one side to the other. The road is in terrible shape. Now, I'm not saying that's the only road in town, because there's others probably that need more attention because they are in a higher traffic area. But I can't think of much when you have every attorney that ever comes to anyone arrested in Cedar County going to the jail, the district courts being held out there 2 days a week for their issues, all the law enforcement for the county going there to process paperwork.
So you're saying the road needs work on? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing if there is none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which can be passed with one motion, which would be the council minutes from January 16th and the 30th, the airport committee minutes from January 11th, and library board minutes from November 30th, and the cemetery minutes from January 18th. Is there anything that needs to be pulled out and discussed? All right, is there a motion then to pass this?
I'll make that motion.
Spear with the first,
I'll second.
and Boots with the second.
McNeil? Booth?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
All right, so that has been approved. And now, moving all the way down to the mayoral proclamation. I will read it. It is a mayoral proclamation acknowledging Stuart Clark, editor-in-chief of the Tipton Conservative, as an acknowledged master editor-publisher. Whereas at its February 3rd, 2017 convention and trade show, the Iowa Newspaper Association did convene and consider the merits of its members from across the state of Iowa for the award of its prestigious Master Editor-Publisher Award of the Year. And whereas the Newspaper Association considers editors' efforts in maintaining a reliable and responsible source of news for its readers, including their hard work, sound thinking, unselfish influence upon their readers, and honorably lived life, and whereas this editor is actively engaged in the difficult work of producing a newspaper that retains readers' interest, editorial reporting integrity, and ongoing viability as a business, and whereas, after due consideration, the Newspaper Association did determine that Stuart Clark, Tipton, Iowa, is their selection as Master Editor Publisher of the Year for 2017, and whereas the Mayor and City Council of the City of Tipton and the city's personnel wish to also acknowledge their appreciation for the work that the Tipton Conservative's Editor-in-Chief, Stuart Clark, does, strive not only for transparency and constructive criticism and reporting, but also for his efforts toward making the community a better place. Now, therefore, be proclaimed by myself, Mayor of Tipton, Iowa, and on behalf of the City Council, that the Council does unreservedly acknowledge the honor bestowed on Stuart Clark by his peers and express its gratitude for his tireless effort to produce the best newspaper community in the state of Iowa could hope for, as Master Editor-Publisher of the Tipton Conservative newspaper.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Okay, now moving down to motions for approval. The claims list. Are there any claims that we want to pull out to discuss? All right, seeing there is none, is there a motion to approve the claims list?
So moved.
Spear with the first, and McNeil with the second.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil.
All right, then, quote for refinishing the water slides at the Aquatic Center. Mr. Spangler?
I had a game tonight, that's why I'm dressed like this, not because I want to look like Tim Long, so. Did they get that recorded? Any questions about any of the quotes?
Wow, why is there such a discrepancy?
Mel and I had Mel look out for other companies, and this is what came back. Fisher Brothers is the guy that I contacted 2 years ago. He came down and went to our facility. He's like, well, probably in a couple of years, you definitely need to do something, so that's why I haven't come back again. And he said these three things for sure: Iowa City, Coralville, Cedar Rapids, Waterloo. I mean, everyone goes through Fishers. A lot of people do. He said you have to be careful with other companies. Say, hey, 5-year contract, you're giving you so much money, and we'll refinish it every single year, come back. Well, you get stuck, and they don't do the work. So we have to be careful in certain companies. So that's what's very selective in certain people that I got quotes from. I said, all I want is these three things, and this is what came back. So that's why the jump was one was 57,000, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was
so
24.
24, yeah. So those three things really needs to be done. I said, just what things we need to be done. I mean, other stuff we can wait for a while. But the slide rest, the bridge and tower steps, when you resurface, those are the hazards. The bridge steps are, if you sit on them, or sort of like the grading that we had around like the zero depth, we painted over top of it, so it's still grit to it, but it's starting to get like wearing down. So if you sit on it, you get like, feels like it's needles in your butt or your feet. So that needs to be done, as well as the strips on going on top of the tower so kids don't fall. Because even though we tell kids not to run, they still try to run up the stairs.
And so then this would be, you're asking for us to approve the Fisher Brothers quote.
Yes.
This is budgeted out.
We did put money back for, building maintenance. We did put that down for, I know I wasn't sure if it was capital or building.
It would be at that cost.
It'd be that cost, yeah. Because I knew we had to do something with, I wasn't sure. I wrote down, I wasn't sure 15,000, 20,000, I wasn't sure. I knew it wasn't gonna be, it's a couple years ago, they said, oh, we'll redo all the slides and be this much, and I gave it to Chris, and Chris like, no. So this is why I called him back 2 years later, and this is what he said, these three things, these 3 items. I'm sorry the gap was like, what was it, it was 15, and it was 24, and 57, so I know that we told the guys, okay, we need these 3 things. But Fisher Brothers are the only ones that came down to look at our facility. The other 2 wanted out to walk the slides and measure and do everything else. And no, we're not going to do that. You can walk the white slide, but the speed slide's really hard to walk the speed slide. So,
So this is budgeted, or did you have money?
I did put it in the budget.
Is there a motion to approve or deny, or table?
Approve.
Anderson with the first to approve,
I'll second.
and Spear with the second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
and Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
All right, and then moving on to the third one, which is a quote for replacing the gutter inserts for the aquatic center.
Hard to explain. You know, if there's a aquatic center around the steps, they do like 90-degree angles. Not sure why the contractors designed it this way.
Is this the inside pool or the outside?
And outside.
Okay,
And outside. Round the stairs is 90-degree angle. Brian, you've been there. So they try to be fancy with it. Instead of just going all the way to the wall and go all the way to the wall, they try to cut in the middle of each one of those now the caulking is coming loose. And if you're not watching every single day, they go like this, and the kid can step and cut his foot. Now it's starting to get, I've recaulked them, put them together, recaulked them, put them together, and constantly just keep on, kids step on them, and they just come uneven. So I now go around through both the rec pool and the indoor pool and see what sections we need, not to replace all of it, just like, okay, that section goes to here, that's from there to there, and that's what the quotes came back. And it was really hard to find just two, and just the kind that we have. So, not sure why it was so hard to find, but the one, Rec Supply, was one that it was real easy because they were the ones that we got from originally. The other ones, we got them too. So now this was last year. It's sort of hard to explain, but when you take those pieces out, they put brackets in there, and if we just get the full pieces, they'll fit right in. If you try to recreate what they did, it's going to be really hard. And I really don't want to do that because then it's going to come back to, eventually after a while, it's just going to become caulk, and it's a lot easier to have the full sections put in. It's mainly on the south side of the indoor pool, the most we notice it around the stairs and on the right by the diving board.
And you said you'll put them in yourself, take it, or your
Yeah, it's
staff?
pretty easy to take out.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve or deny?
So moved.
All right, Spear has made the first to approve this purchase. And McNeil with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper, McNeil, Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Adam.
And to the number 4, which is street dance request from the owner of Tiger's Den. Is he here? All right, so should we table it?
Can act on it, you can table it.
It wouldn't be for a while anyway with the weather
That's
the
true.
way it is.
Oh, okay. All right, is there a motion to table this? Boots with the first, and McNeil with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
All right, then down to number 5, which is there's a one-time request for a waiver for Nikki Bennett of West 9th Street and her water. Is there any questions on this? She has repaired the leaky toilet. She isn't here, is she? Okay.
Motion to approve.
McNeil with first to approve,
I'll second.
and Spear with second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
All right, and then number 6, kind of exciting news: the acceptance of Melissa Armstrong from Clarence as the finance director to take over when Lorna signs off in the
It's the happy trail.
Yes. Tim, you want to talk to her right now?
Sure. Just brief from the council. There were 17 applications for the finance director position prior to the first deadline. And after the selection committee's vetting of the candidates, that included mayor, council member, staff, they recommended interviewing 4 of those applicants. The selection committee consisted of Dean Anderson, Pam Spear, Lorna Fletcher, Amy Lenz, Linda Beck, Connie Dowfelt, Cindy Dorman, Steve Nash, Chief Kepford, Craig Popenhagen, who is one of the accountants from Clifton, Larson Allen, and me. And the interviews were conducted on Thursday, January the 26th, the entire afternoon. The committee discussion took place the following day on the 27th, and background and reference checks were done. And following committee review and discussion of the interviews, all came to the same conclusion, and the scoring from that process supported the discussion. Based on experience, education, and training, and importantly, fit for the position, and the role, recommendation was to hire Melissa Armstrong from Clarence, Iowa, as interim budget analyst to become finance director upon Laura's retirement in May. She anticipates starting the end of February to allow closing out her position as budget officer with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Cedar Rapids. In addition to her 6+ years experience in budget management for the U.S. Attorney's Office, she was budget analyst at U.S. Army Tank Command at Rock Island Arsenal. Melissa has a bachelor's degree and MBA degrees from St. Ambrose University in Davenport. So I'm bringing this to the council to advise you of my hiring decision and to, more importantly, ask for your support for her role as a budget analyst, finance director for the position. And she's very excited to start, and everyone's very pleased with the outcome of the interview process. So I'm asking the council's validation, approval of this hiring. Any questions?
All right, is there a motion to approve?
I make that motion.
Boots with the first,
Second.
and Leeper with the second.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil.
All right, then to number 7, which is the consideration of approval of the interim city manager's attendance at Iowa Municipal Managers Conference in Iowa City.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm asking your support to attend the annual Municipal Managers Institute on March 15 and 16 in Iowa City. I'm only requesting wages for the time spent at the Institute, as I anticipate commuting back and forth from home or Tipton City Hall, and the $420 registration fee. Think about that free slip. Has been waived since I'm presenting at one of the sessions entitled, "Is There Life After City Management?" So anyway, I appreciate your consideration for my attendance.
Is there a motion to approve this attendance?
So moved.
Spear with the first and Leeper with the second? Is that, all right.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Boots.
Yes.
To the reports, we have the Community Development Director's report, Library Director's report from November and December of 2016, and American Public Power Governance Workshop and Fire Chief's Annual Report. Is there a motion to receive and file these? Anderson with the first,
I'll second.
and McNeil with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
All right, then moving on to the discussion items, which will be no action taken on this, but there's a preliminary budget draft for the fiscal year ending in 2018. Mr. Long?
I would deflect to our finance director.
She's retired.
And I'm resigned.
I'd ask each of the department heads to put together a synopsis of their budgets with anything that may be out of the ordinary, that their equipment or something that they have in budget included. So you have the sheets that they've prepared. I think Adam probably has to go, so we have him on. So if you want to just go over it real quick, Adam?
Sure.
Quick run through, rec is pretty self-explanatory. The only big purchase I have, we need to purchase some soccer goals for preschool soccer. It's already really rusted out. We got some stuff for our field drag for the diamonds. Other than that, that's pretty much everything else. Is registrations and other stuff.
The showers, is that all the showers that'll be, so none of them will be automatic anymore? Okay.
Oh, sorry, the handicap ones will be.
Okay.
All all the others will be manual. And then I have our staff, like during the summertime, about every 15 minutes go through locker rooms. So any of the locker rooms, and the showers are on, we turn them off. During the winter months, probably 90% of the time, there are adults in there. So as you know, in the shower, I'm pretty sure they turn them off. I've got 2 different quotes from all laws throughout the years, and John keeps on coming back, are you gonna approve it this time, are you gonna go through it? And he's, I mean, it's sort of my, but, it's getting more evident, those automatic ones are starting to get a big pain to do. That's one of the things I put in there in the budget, and, I forgot to print out that sheet, but I have the budget in front of me, so,
Then you have umbrellas and basketball.
yeah, umbrellas, Umbrellas, those have been needed to be replaced probably in the past 2 years. I mean, I'm trying to patch as much as I can. The edging around all of the umbrellas are coming apart. I'm cutting them, trying to do as much as I possibly can, make them look as presentable as possible. I'm scrubbing and cleaning them. I store them in the wintertime. I've looked into other communities. They have like a sort of like a blanket wrap that goes around it, and that's how they winterize instead of taking them down every single year. That's about $500 per, just to get it wrapped around and then take them off. I'm like, no, it's just, get a scissor lift, it's a lot easier now with the scissor lift to take them off and put them back on. So, but some are really ripping and other stuff too. So, that's basically it. Basketball, we have 2 rims that we use, but during the first, second grade division, they use both high school gyms. If you guys don't want me to, I can do it, but I transport those 2 rims back and forth all the time, every single day. We just had 2 each. I showed the coaches how to put them up, but then I'm constantly bringing them up every single day. They go 25, 0, 52, and so I have to get those, but if we don't, it's not that big of a deal. That's pretty much everything else is.
We talking about basketball.
Yeah, basketball, sorry. I'm jumping around,
I
sorry.
think because that falls under the
You're
rec,
correct, yeah.
we could use the reserve funds
Okay, oh yeah,
for
that's right.
those, and we
That's
could
right.
probably do that,
If the soccer goes too.
yeah, now, and then include it in the amendment,
Okay,
if that's
Okay.
okay with the council.
yeah, that'd be, yeah,
Those aren't that much.
yeah, they're not, I mean, preschool soccer is really small, they're pretty small, they're pretty easy, but the ones we have now, they're used a lot. We even use those small goals for our soccer camps, so it's not like we just use it for soccer league, so.
Alright.
Just so I understand all this information I have now. If I were to add all the totals of all of this, is this what you anticipate your budget to increase by?
Talking about all 3?
Well, yeah, if I just totaled your, or is some, you know.
The rec programs are separate
Yeah.
budgets.
Rec, and then, park, and then aquatics, are all 3, separate.
But some are reoccurring costs that you have on the budget from, you know, I guess I would like to know before we get the whole budget is, you know, the total amount of your budget increase also, if I could have.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, this is good information.
We are doing, Mel and I, and this is, granted, this is the first year Mel's doing, I have to walk her through it, staffing. So the staffing, of course, is by far the biggest one during the summertime,
Right.
with lifeguards and stuff. This year, we're gonna have a couple lifeguards, but we're not gonna pay them as much because I have to watch Mel's hours too, and then we have someone in line to be a pool manager to subsidize those hours, but not pay her, of course, Mel's wages, but it's a little more than lifeguards
Mhm.
and be a supervisor role, but it evened out to how much we're paying head guards, and actually it's less than what we're paying. I'll explain this really well, anyway. Normally we have between 5 and 6 head guards throughout the summer, and they'd be like head guards here, regular guards, and then they would be doing schedules, they would be there, well, I can't be outside all the time, but now since we've had aquatic supervisor, it's a lot easier to not have as many. So last year we had 2. But with that 2, Colin or myself was on call during the weekends. We'd come turn the pumps on, do all that type of stuff. And then this year with Mel, she's hourly, so we have to make sure that over the summertime it's gonna be really hard to keep her right at 40 every single month, every single week. With that, we're gonna try to get somebody else, like a full manager, to pay a little more than a guard in a supervisor role, to monitor her. So if Mel's getting close to maxing her hours, she would come in and give us me over. So we only have 2 head guards, but they're not head guards during the week, only on the weekends. So then we're paying her a little more, but in the long run, we're saving money that way. But returning guards is very hard, since in the past 5 years, it's really hard to get guards to come back. And it's not just us, it's statewide. Because they can go to Dairy Queen and get paid just as much as we're paying for lifeguards, and they have a lot less responsibility. They'll have parents yell and scream at them and think that they should have just watching their kid the entire time and not. We're not a babysitting service, that's where I try to, I've literally have told parents that at their aquatic center, and they get really upset with me, but we're here to keep people safe, not be your babysitter. So, we're taking that into consideration, but we can't just, hey, yeah, we'll pay you more. We're not going to do that either. So we went to almost every single school in the surrounding counties. We've got people from DeWitt coming here, North Cedar, Wilton, other people in other towns coming to work for us because we have to. Not every single kid at Tipton, I'm going over to the aquatic center. Granted, the announcements, we're trying to get as many kids as possible. Like last year we had 27 guards, which seems like a lot, and 9 guards work each day. And then you have softball, baseball, vacations, camps, that's have to work around everybody else. So it's not just, that's pretty easy, it's a lot harder than it seems.
And your payroll will go up other than normal amounts,
Yeah, it will go up a little bit, yes.
but these aquatic center purchases would be extra.
Yes.
It's not normally in your budget.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So I think that's
I-
what Pam was asking.
Yeah, sorry, we will work soon, explain that. Sorry, I started talking, I can't shut up. Sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, so Mel and I did sit down and talk, like, what are the expenses we definitely need to do within the next year? And those are the things we thought of, other than that, out of the ordinary. So,
All right.
Thank you.
sorry, I
Thank you.
explained way too much.
You're right. Scott? Your page was next on our little packet.
I wasn't sure how much of the fire chief's report you guys had in the packet.
All of this.
That's all you guys have? Okay, well, I have more.
Okay, thank you.
So I also have our current roster on the front page. I have the annual report, starting after that. And then my finance request is the last page. For you. Are we going to go over anything about the fire department quick before I go into budget, or you just want me to write the budget?
Budget's fine.
Write the budget? Okay. I didn't know if anybody had any questions over the rest of the report, so that was just information you were given, so that's what I do.
You didn't do anything. I don't think the council got any copy of the report.
No. Okay. So I thought that was kind of odd when you guys approved it, but I appreciate that. Let's see. On top of our regular budget that we normally ask for, we're looking at putting lights on that north gravel parking lot, and then out here in the alley to light up that area when we do training, when we come back from fires, we've got to wash hose, whatever we've got to do out there. We've noticed it's pretty dark out there when we get back, so we either got to do it in on the apparatus floor or move out there. So we went ahead and we've got 3 or 4 lights installed. We're talking about doing, there was somebody over with electrical earlier, or late last week. We talked to them about maybe doing a 20% dawn to dusk out there in the parking lot so it's lit up all the time, and then put motion lights for the rest of it, so when the guys pull in for calls, lights up that parking lot a lot better.
Are these going to be lights on the building?
Yes, they'll be mounted on the building, shining in those 2 areas, because right now it's just the street lights are out on the outside and the little ones that are over the doors. So basically what you see tonight is what we work with on a regular basis. 5 sets of turnout gear. Annually we try and replace 5 sets. NFPA suggested to replace turnout gear every 7 years. just to keep it, just through absorbing chemicals, cleaning, washing. Sunlight starts to break down the material, so we try and replace 5 sets every year. Last year, I believe that amount was about 11,000. There was a price increase, obviously, this year, so that moved that up. And then we have 10 helmets that are past the 10-year service life on those, and that's an additional onto that 37,750. We are actually out of additional or extra hose. We're actually a couple sections short, so I put it in the budget to replace those hoses and then restock some of our supply. There's a request in there for a slide-out tray and a topper for the other pickup truck. Right now, we just carry equipment in the back of that. If we got to go out when it's raining, when it's snowing, whatever, all that equipment's getting wet, we want to put it on a tray that will pull out, so you don't have to get up in the inside of the truck. But so we can pull it all the way out the back, take the equipment off, put it back on, slide it in, shut the door, and it's covered up, it's protected. There's a request in there for, we're either going to do some type of laptop or desktop. I talked to Brad. He said that the one in the chief's office could probably be moved to the next step down to the computer that is, what would you say, obsolete? The computer that's in the captain's office. The old one.
Your locking system.
Yeah, one that's got our locking system on it. It's got actually all the electronic doors on it, so we're going to transfer that into another computer and then replace the one that's in the chief's office. And then possibly upgrade the printer that's in the chief's office. We just have to figure out where we're at on price for all that. And then the $1,200 for advertising from back in 2013, which hasn't been cleaned up yet. And I've also got some small tool requests there. Fuel cans up to code. Right now we're just using plastic cans like what you'd buy anywhere. We don't have fire safety cans. So if one of them tips over in a truck, they have the possibility of spilling. Webbing for the back of the trucks to secure the hose. We've got one that's got a canvas light cover over the back of it. Corner's starting to rip on that. We're just going to put like seatbelt webbing to keep the hose in. And then a helmet mounted flashlight on each one of the helmets out there so guys can have basically hands-free light when we go into fires and stuff. And then the bandoleros is a radio holder that command can wear so their hands, basically hands-free. The mic is right here. You just reach up and use it that way. So that is what's above what my regular expected expenses are. Last year, I don't know what that total was. I think it's about a 10 to 11% increase over last year.
Thank you. What about the radios for 10 years?
I have, so far, we haven't damaged any trucks. We haven't froze anything up. There's money in last year's budget for vehicles that I can transfer into,
So
I would
you
assume
would
it would be
have
communications. I don't know if it'll be half, but there'll be some left in there.
half next year.
And then the rest of it will be, yeah, there should still be, as long as we don't damage anything, there should still be money left in that account, which is figured an annual expense.
Which budget are you referring to, the current fiscal year?
Current.
Yeah, okay.
There should be some in current, and then if we don't, because we always plan on some breakage damage.
No, we'd have to put it in a reserve account. It won't stay in your budget because it's in the general fund.
But I can replace those radios before July 1, right?
If there's funding, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's
So
still
you're
money
actually gonna try and
left,
purchase
but
half
yes,
this year.
some of
Okay.
it this year, some of it next year, and the last of it will be, does that make sense? Hopefully we can do it a third and a third and a third if we don't break anything. Okay,
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Now the police. Is Chief Tipton here? There she is.
I believe there should be 4 sheets of what is in my budget. That explains each category that I had, and I didn't have the wages or the benefits when I did the budget that was being added. Probably the biggest expense in there is a police vehicle. The last chief had it on a 5-year rotation, and when equipment committee met, they talked about making sure we keep our equipment and our vehicles especially on a good rotation and not run them into the ground. And police cars get used every day, 24 hours a day. And so Clay would like to have one of the police vehicles replaced. That's my biggest expense, and it's the latest estimate that Clay has gotten from me is about, with it fully equipped, is about $40,000. At the end of this fiscal year, even before this fiscal year, I believe, the current vehicle should be paid off. Is that correct, Donna?
This is the last year for it.
Yes. So it would be kind of fitting in that slot. So it wouldn't be a big change to my budget, but just so you know, one vehicle's going off and we need to replace and get it on that 5-year rotation. It's probably the biggest expense in there. I do have it in there regarding the ballistic vests. The ballistic vests are good for 5 years. They have to be replaced every 5 years for them to be useful. Luckily, we haven't had to test them. So I did write a grant because we have 4 ballistic vests coming due this year. So I wrote a grant. I won't know about that until April if we receive any monies for that. That's why that's in there. And I don't believe it's ever been explained for our equipment and uniforms, just to outfit each officer, each full-time officer, only 6 of us, for a pair of boots, 1 pair of pants, 1 long sleeve shirt, and 1 short sleeve shirt is about $350 per officer. So times 6 is $2,100. There goes half of the equipment and uniform right after that for just a basic uniform. If anything breaks, if they're on duty, pants tear, whatever happens, there might be an expense where they have to get a new pair of pants or a shirt. That doesn't include the coats. We don't buy coats every year. That's kind of on a 5-year cycle. And any equipment that breaks or gets lost or damaged on your belt, your cuff case, asp, OC spray, any of that goes into that category. That's why it's kind of a big chunk of money. Otherwise, I think everything's listed out if you have any questions.
If I remember right, did we, when we bought our new police vehicles, did we not do 2 of them in 2 years?
They were bought in 2 different fiscal years. One was
Yeah,
bought
so-
in February and one was bought in like October. So 2 separate fiscal years. So they're on a 5-year rotation. So next year,
Another one.
I will request the next one to be rotated out. It would be nice if we could have gotten a little bigger spread on
Yeah.
there. But the last chief that's how he set it up, and so I'm just trying to,
Stretch it.
and I think.
It would be nice to
those are
have
listed
them
that way.
a little further.
I know there had been some discussion of moving one of them to the K-9 officer. Is that
That's what I'm hoping
Okay.
is, the K-9 car is a Crown Vic.
from when I was in high school?
It is, Clay has replaced the engine, so it's got a new engine, but the car itself is, and of all the officers, our K-9 really does need a 4-wheel drive, and that car's not 4-wheel drive.
So that's the car that would be offloaded?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be really nice to just, I've talked with Clay and we've looked at the logistics of doing all that, changing it out, making it a K-9 car. That's what we would like to do, to keep it in the rotation, but still use it for police work.
Approximately how much do you think it would cost to have it K-9 proofed?
Most everything in the current K-9 car, as far as the heat and cold lock, because the doors have to have a special locking system or unlocking system, if you want to call it. So if the temperature gets too hot or too cold, it's an automatic door pop. We have that in the vehicle, and it can be put into the other vehicle. The one thing that would have to be changed is we would probably need the different cage K-9 area. And Clay did not have a price for me on that. I do have a miscellaneous part of my budget, and I probably have to take it out of that. He didn't have a price for me, but most everything else can be transferred. Radio, not the lights. lights, we would keep the current lights on there because the new vehicle, that 40,000 includes, outfitting it with everything. So,
And we're looking at paying for those, not bonding for them, like we have in the past, right?
Correct, yeah, paying for it.
yes, and I think that's what we did with the last ones. They're on a depreciation schedule.
So would this new one be a SUV as well?
Yes, I've checked with other chiefs in the whole state. We have a little forum that we go back and forth on. The Tauruses are a decent car, but again, not a four-wheel drive. And I know it sounds crazy to have a four-wheel drive in town, but I can't tell you how many times we've needed it. Water, mud, snow, ice, whatever. You want your police to be able to respond to everything at all times, not just 9 months out of the year. So,
All right. Thank you much, Chief.
Thank you.
Economic development.
They're terrible. Well, there's one project, the mural, which that would be a big ticket. One thing that I'm going to be looking at is a grant that's called Iowa Great Places. And Marla Quinn from ECIA is going to be coming and talking to me. Rod Ness, at a meeting that we were at, and he said, he'd like to incorporate this grant to be for all of Cedar County, for murals to go in every town. And so we're going to have this meeting to see what happens with that. But I did talk to an individual, Brian Casfrey from Clarence, that does paint and gets a building ready. Where the mural would probably go, it doesn't mean that this is written in stone by any means, but I had talked to Diana Zock a couple of times, and it would be on her building. The only thing that she requests is that part of the mural have Among Friends painted. But Brian has not looked at this building. This is just a total guess right now with the mural. The bicycle that was used for RAGBRAI in 2008, that has been something by many individuals in our community that has been brought to my attention that they would like to see as a staple in our community. And I have got some numbers on that. The most expensive part right now that I can see is really the replacement of the lights, which the lights have to be replaced because they were no good anymore. That cost would be $4,500, and that's a little high probably. I did see with my CD, community director projects, if I could maybe get that under. There would be some other grants that I would like to go after too, to see if I could maybe get some money to help offset the cost of this. I always bring it to everybody's attention. In Brandon, Iowa, Brandon is a very small community, but everybody knows Brandon, Iowa because of the skillet. And that's what I want to happen in Tipton too. I want the bicycle to be a staple, that when people drive on Highway 38, and we would have to have a place for it to go. But my vision is on Highway 38, when people drive by, they would see that, they would remember, oh yeah, that's the place that has that cute little shop, and we ate somewhere, and it would bring some revenue to our community. The wayfinding signage was brought to the attention when we had our downtown walk around. And it was really hard for me to get some prices on this because it just is really hard right now to get some prices. So this totally was a guess. This wouldn't be a huge project because we would have the signage for specific places like the old Cedar County Jail, the Cedar County Historical Society, the City Hall would be another, the Aquatic Center. So it wouldn't be like there would be oodles of signs, but there would be some signs that would be a little more decorative for our community. So, so that is not a huge ticket item. The big ticket is something that I think many of us in our community have wanted for a long time, and that is a walking trail or a bike trail. And I get very discouraged with this when I go to meetings because it just seems like little cities such as ours, we're overlooked. And the big cities get all the connections to all these walking trails, and then they get the monies for it. And I voiced my frustration at some of these meetings. So the Great Places grant would maybe be also another place. There is in the state of Iowa, and I know Rob, our Cedar County engineer, he happens to be on a board, but it's really hard to get that particular grant. And so,
to connect somewhere.
yeah, you do. You have to connect. Yeah, and one thing that we kind of tossed around just a little bit, sometimes when you repave a road, you can add an extra 2 foot, and that really could be considered, a bike trail. But we have a lot of walkers in town, and a lot of times they're on the street because there's nowhere else for them to go. And I guess Iowa is a wellness state, and I would really like us to look into this very seriously. Even if it was the outskirts, the perimeter of our city, if we would have some type of walking trail where people could go and you could be safe and you wouldn't have to be out on the street and you could walk your dog if you wanted. What Clarence did was smart. It's around their park. And it gets used, and it's beautiful because you can walk in the evening because it's lit up, and you're safe. It's not a huge trail, and it doesn't have to be because you can go around as many times as you want. So that's something at some point. I would love to form or have a committee formed with a walking trail that we could really get serious about this one, because the walking trail is going to be an item that is going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. But, there are experts that can help us. By no means am I an expert grant writer, and that's why, we are in a partnership with ECIA. They have individuals there at cost. Nothing is ever free that would come and help with those grants. Jones County just got a walking trail, and I'm like, wow, how did you do this? But it takes a lot of time and some effort. So I'm really hoping with the bicycle that I can get a staple downtown, especially after the destruction of our flower pots. We need to really move it now with some things, so I'm really hoping, and I do believe that Lauren and I put that in my CD projects line item, was the Ray Bry bicycle. And the wayfinding signage was another thing that I think I put in there. The other two are too big right now. And real quick, I want to just let you know that the holiday decorations so far, with donations, we have collected $1,260. So that's 1/3 of what it cost. So we're doing real good with that. And then the grant was submitted too. How about questions real quick?
I know years ago when I used to ride on RagBrite, we looked for other places to ride our bicycles other than on RagBrite. There was a group that started here in Iowa, I believe, called Rails to Trails. And they'd take old railroad right of ways and put a bike trail on it. And some of those are really neat.
They are.
And I don't know if they had money available to help people.
That was one thing that was discussed at one point, and I remember the railroad that used to, from Stanwood, came right here.
Sure.
Now, I do not know with the farmers with that land, if they, I don't know if there was an easement, I don't know anything about that.
They got it with a quitclaim deed.
Okay, so they're probably, their crop is on there now. But yeah, I mean.
Because there's a rail in the yard right across from my house. There's
Oh,
still a rail out there in that yard.
Well, and again, I think that like the walking bike trail, it would be wonderful to connect to another little city. It'd be perfect if we went like to West Branch, and even better if we went to Iowa City. But to be feasible right now, I would like our, if possible, the walking trail to be within our city limits. And that way people can continue to exercise and really see the beautiful parts of the city, because there's many places that, you know, I don't even go around because it just, I'm not going to walk in the street that long. I mean, I walk in the street, but sometimes I'm careful when I'm walking. Any other questions?
I don't think so, thank you.
Yeah.
Electric department.
I had 6 things on there that that are pretty important things. The rebuild of the Fairbanks Morse OP engine would probably be number 1. The second thing that I would look at is a full-time lineman for the electric department. We're falling farther and farther behind, and we've got a lot of work to do, and it would really help out a lot. The time, you know, we haven't talked about the safety manuals and stuff like that, but we're going to have to start thinking about what we're going to do with the employees being on call. We don't have a written safety program right now. I've started working on that. Most utilities are requiring 2 people to go out on a call. And with that said, that's something I'm going to have to address later. A pickup for the line department too. We lost a vehicle here the last go around. I'd like to have a summer help employee, and the new locator we could live without for another year if we had to, but we are going to need to be replacing that one that we have because parts are, there's no support for it anymore. The biggest item, or one of the bigger items, is the digger derrick. The current truck we have is completely unsafe to use in the type of environment that we work in. The pole claws are not transferable. Any of the work that the guys have to do, they work in the hot zone with that metal part of that boom, and it's not a safe truck to use anymore for that. So it really needs to be replaced. We talked about this at the equipment meeting, and Clay's recommendation, and so is mine, is that we need to be looking for a replacement. That truck is, what did he say, 22 years, Steve? Or 23? Yeah. So, and it's definitely, you know, we definitely got all the goodie out of it that's left. And we've spent, I don't know, we fixed what? Hydraulic cylinders, outriggers, hoses, what am I missing? Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and I, you know.
Those parts.
What's the cost of replacement on that?
We're thinking probably $110,000 to $140,000.
And that's a demo or?
Yeah, that'd be a demo or a used unit.
A new one would be over 200,000.
The new ones I looked at that are similar to some of the demos are 220 plus. So, but one of the biggest things I think that we really need to look at though is the rebuild of the Fairbanks Morse. It's pretty important because that's another $80,000 a year that we would get in capacity payments from RPGI. That would pay for itself within about 4 years if we expend $300,000. I'm hoping we can do it for less. I've got another person coming up this year, in this next month, to look at it and give me an idea of what he's thinking it's going to cost. So, well, yeah, it's this year. But anyway, those are the things that really stick out.
All right.
Lloyd,
Yeah.
what are some of the reasons that you're falling behind? Is it because
We
people?
don't have enough help.
Well, I would have guessed that, but, I mean, is it that you're repairing the engine? Is there more building than you were anticipating? Or
This
what's-
year, we've seen just a lot of miscellaneous building and stuff like that. We've got things, since I've got here, we've got a list on the wall. On that list, we've gotten one thing taken care of, and there's probably 14, 15 things, John?
Yeah, there's stuff on the board that was here when I started.
We've got this one alley back here in the back, between Cedar and Lynn Street. It needs to be finished. It's been started, but it is in desperate need of being finished. The pole tops are all rotten. It's the same thing that we have up there on North Street, up around that area there, and it really needs some work. So, get more help to do it and get materials and stuff to do it. It would be better if we could get working on it sooner than later. I'm afraid that if we get a big ice storm or something like that, most of that stuff in that alley is gonna be laying on the ground. So,
Thank you.
For the abominable snowman,
the what?
the abominable snowman, remember? One of them handheld deals. Read my meter.
Oh,
He has to put in his crotch and his armpit.
oh, we had that rebuilt,
So
so.
I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Thank you. Now, Mr. Nash?
Thanks.
I've got, in the past, I've been up here for 15, 20, 25 minutes, and I'm gonna try to cut that down to about 3 minutes. And I can see a lot of smiles already. Public Works, there's not gonna be much change at all, straight across the board. Everything that we budgeted in the past is pretty much the same. I did put in a city worker 2, since we've taken the water, wastewater back in-house. Of course, Brian, full-time, and we replaced Brian with a hire, but Eldon is half-time in that water, wastewater. He's the backup, he's the other certified guy, so he's with that phase of the operation about half the time too. So, and we were down another guy before this even started, so I'm really down about a guy and a half. I'd like to get a city worker 2 back. And not that we can't, well, that half guy's hard to come by. Some of the guys think I'm a half guy. But, and I don't argue with them. But I've got that plugged in there. We are struggling to get a lot of things done that we don't do. And one of the things that Clay brought to my attention a couple of days ago, well, last week actually, from doing his annual review of what's going on with the equipment, we used to change oil in the backhoe and the skid steers 3 to 4 times a year. The last 2 years, because we've been down some staff, we've only had to change oil twice a year. So we're not getting into those bigger projects like storm sewer intakes, water main work, valve replacements, fire hydrant replacements. We don't have the people to do that right now. I want to get back to that, start doing a little more of that in-house. Having said that, I'm getting close to my 3 minutes here, but water, the only thing we're going to do in water, the only thing we're going to do in water is, and pay for it out of the, little surplus we have, I think, now in water, is that water main across from Casey's that we drew up about 3 years ago. It has, I think it has 5 breaks in it, and the last break we could just barely get the patch in between that break and that break. There was about an inch or 2 difference on each side. So the next time something goes, we're probably going to be digging and putting in big sticks of water main if it happens again. But we do have the money to cover that. Garbage, we're still continuing to look for solutions. I found out about a meeting in Iowa City that Johnson County group is getting together And I kind of horned in on that meeting and talked to the woman over there. She said, yeah, come over, you can sit in and listen. Because we're struggling with the same thing too. We're trying to figure out what to do with recycling. Everybody doesn't know what to do with recycling. We're not in that boat alone. Everybody's doing it. So we're trying to look for different ways to possibly move in a positive direction there. Let me shed a little more light on Central Garage and the equipment. I know Lisa and Floyd both brought that up. We're going to have another equipment committee meeting, and we determined from the last meeting, based on usage and age of stuff, that we've got 5 pieces of equipment that are on the list, and we think if the numbers come in like we think, like the digger derrick is our #1 need at this point, and if we can get that worked into this Central Garage budget right now, between $110,000 and $140,000, that will allow for the backhoe replacement and the skid steer replacement. Those two combined would be right at $100,000. Lisa's car was on that list, as well as another pickup for the electric department. The second pickup that we'd like to, that's not on the Central Garage list, would be in the water wastewater department. Because we have 2 guys running around at both lagoons, and we have 2 17-year-old pickups that we're using. One of them we don't like to leave town with very often, but those 2 trucks have served us well, but we need to replace one. We can do that again next year with the savings from taking the water wastewater in-house. We'll take $15,000 out of water and $15,000 out of wastewater, and that's worked well this year. That brings us back into a good rotation then. So that's one of the biggest benefits that I can see equipment-wise that we've done as a result of this water wastewater. So, questions on, am I done yet?
Yep.
Okay. All I need to hear. But I will say this, garbage truck did break down today, big time. And last time it broke down, we were able to fly some parts in overnight from Alabama. Clay was able to put them in the next day, and we got it back on the road. This one's not so easy. Clay's taking off in the morning for Arizona. So we can get the parts into Ankeny tomorrow, overnight them. I got 2 guys to take the truck to Ankeny to get it put back together. The big swivel packer in the front lost the bottom end of it. It broke loose. The gear broke loose today. It can only happen to us. It's 4 years old, and of course nobody's ever seen that happen before. But that's going out there. We hope to have it back on schedule for Friday garbage. And anybody we did not get picked up today, garbage-wise, we will call in and, well, we know where you're at. Set it out for Friday. The best we can do. We can't get another truck. Somebody asked me one day, says, well, you only got 1 truck? I said, yeah, at 175 or 85,000, we've only got 1. So that's where we're at on that. This week we'll not be doing recycle. We just can't get it. So pull your recycle cans back in tomorrow and be patient, and we'll be there as soon as we can next week. And there's another note on the bottom. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm going to let you read it. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Ambulance. Ambulance service.
No, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, I'm 4 minutes now. Perfect. I think there are some large increases on this budget compared to our previous budget of $259,601. We've had plenty of meetings now to talk about issues with emergency medical services deploying across the state as well as across this community. So you'll see in there an increase of staff requests for 2 full-timers. Now I'll lead into this with saying that Tim and I were working on the numbers and seeing how we can keep the costs as low as we can. And one of the people would rather actually just stay as a part-time individual at this time, so we can rework those numbers. I'm struggling with our call volume is going up, which is a great thing, but
our response times are still not as great as what they could be. And I think we're leaving, I don't know a simpler way to say it, but money on the table. Every time there's a call for service in our surrounding communities where we're not available to take it, somebody else is. And those are missed business opportunities for us. With bringing on additional staff would aid with that. Volunteer wage compensation is underneath part-time, $58,720, which is actually a $2,000 reduction. Training expenditures is a red flag. This was actually a budget that had come up originally when I started here, trying to understand exactly where our budget is. It's just below group life. If we wish to continue bringing on volunteers and having them being the primary faces of the ambulance or the primary staff at night, we need to be heavily investing into their training to ensure that they are the most competent individuals who have all the tools necessary. Our current budget is at $10,000. What I project for this year is $36,774, based off of the EMT class and 2 paramedics going through. I think that's a line that we can, I'd be very much open to going back and forth on, depending on where we would see additional staffing on a full-time level. Vehicle operations, which is a few lines down, $7,000. From my understanding, that line is traditionally only used if the service of the vehicle is used outside of the organization. With my conversations with Clay, I call it Smurf, the old blue ambulance. She's going to spend a lot of time at the spa this coming year. We're expecting issues with the engines. Clay's told me, hint, hint, wink, wink, you're going to have problems with the issue. And if it's my luck, the second we go into that engine, we're going to find another issue. So I thought, let's just put it in there right off the bat, because it's going to have an issue. Operational equipment maintenance has stayed status quo, I want to say at $2,000, and that's just, in the past, it sounds like, just like those power cots, we had all this wonderful equipment, but nobody did any maintenance on them. Prior to code required to do maintenance on them annually, so this is just the fees to ensure that they're staying up to spec. The next one that's really standing out, this one, I'm really having a difficult time with it in my own mind, and Mayor, you sent me an email about it. It's payment to other agencies at $12,000. I want to say our current budget is, we're budgeting for $4,000, sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Our current budget is $3,000 for that. We've seen an increase in the number of requests to external agencies to aid our ambulance service. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not a great thing either. It means that we're servicing our calls, but it also means that our team that's on the call is not able to provide the higher advanced life support level that a traditional paramedic could. Our average tier fee is $200, predominantly being paid out to Johnson County Ambulance. I see with the way our patients are becoming more acute and with the aging population of Tipton, that we will begin, if we don't bring on additional staff, to be paying out larger fees. This year to date, as of January 31st, I was looking at $4,600. If you double that down, we'd be at, what is that, $9,200. I'm adding a little bit of padding in there, and the reason why I say it is, if we just have one really good car accident a couple times a year, we'll hit that $12,000 very quickly. If we have a couple good cardiac arrests, like the past couple of months, we'll hit those numbers unless we have paramedics on board. Moving forward, equipment vehicle maintenance, which is 2 lines below that, $17,000. Currently we have $15,000 in there. Requesting an increase by $2,000. Once again, the Smurf, if you will, loves spending time at the spa. In fact, I'm getting a punch card for the ambulance over at Clay's Garage because of how much time it lived there this year. It took a month off. I've only been here for 3, so 33% of the time that I've been here, it's been at the spa. But God, it looks clean when it gets back. And then after that, I actually want to go to operating supplies, which is 3rd from the bottom. It's actually going to stay status quo. We were able to correct our inventory problem, which we were just hemorrhaging initially. Because of that, our inventory costs are reducing.
I say that cautiously. If we are able to continue getting an increased call volume, especially if our neighbors begin working with us a little bit tighter, we will have to increase that. As a business, it costs money to make money, and with the more acute patient that we're seeing calls go from an average cost of about $700 a call to we're seeing calls now cost over $2,200 a call. That's our cost, not what we're pushing onto the patient. I'm past my 4-minute limit. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I do. Brad, you have $1,800, again, using postage, different
Oh, I'm
postage
sorry.
system, what's that about?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, do you guys remember the fundraiser that we did? You know what I'm talking about too, Lorna, don't you?
Yep.
So, one of the downsides of that fundraiser, after looking and reviewing the contract, was we had to write a check to the fundraising group of $5,700, and that was for licking the envelope and putting a stamp on it. I'm just not about that at all. I would like to get the envelope from the post office that says no postage necessary if mailed in the U.S., shoving one inside the other with our letter and send that out for our mailing drive and cut that down dramatically.
You have to have so many to get that bulk rate.
It sounds like in our mailing drive we had over a couple thousand letters
So
go
I
out.
know there is a restriction in that.
Yeah, they told me the startup cost for that would be $300 to get the program going, and then we would have to have a minimum of $150 inside of the postage account that you set up at the post office to continue with such program. I'm sorry, I didn't clarify that in there. Thanks for catching me. The other thing that I'm looking at on those is when we send out our love mail to our patients or our customers, if you will, we send out a pre-addressed and pre-stamped envelope for their return. It's a nice convenience that you just put your check right in there and send it right on back. I only see 50% of those, and the stamps going up to 50 cents, I want to say, next year. I'd like to do something where it's the quote-unquote no postage necessary. They directly bill us when the letter's put in the mail, and hopefully that'll cut down on some of the costs that we're doing. If there's a way that we can reduce costs around here and increase productivity, that's my goal now. Any other ones for me?
So I'm a little bit confused. You're gonna add another full-time person, and you're increasing the payment to the other agencies, and yet you're saying you still might not have a paramedic on board?
I beg your pardon?
If you had another full-time person, you still might not have a paramedic on board?
This goes to the conversation that I had earlier with Tim. This Excel sheet that I had was a lot lengthier, and I've gone through here and done everything that I can to reduce costs, understanding that there's only so much money in the pie to take or request. I recognize that I can't get everything on this list, and we're doing everything we can to keep costs lower. If I don't ask for the $12,000 from you and don't get a part-timer, then I'm at a zero on both sides and I've lost everything. And then we have to have another conversation on why I'm paying out $9,600 or $12,000 coming
So
out of
you're
urgent.
fully prepared for a little give and take on this?
Well, God, yeah. As long as the council is recognizing that in order for us to serve our patients, we need to be able to have the right tools and the right team members on board as well. You look like you're dying to ask me a question.
No, actually, I'm good. My observation, though, is that I'm seeing a trend of every department head needing another personnel, and that's going to be hard for the council to get their head around, I think.
I really appreciate, actually, I don't envy your guys' position at all. Good luck.
Yeah.
I think that the ambulance service has a great opportunity to expand and do bigger, brighter things in the community and become a central focal point. But in order to make such a investment, in order for us to achieve such goals, we really need to make an investment into those services. I see a lot of opportunities to do just that, but we need to have the personnel in there. I can give you a prime example of just this weekend I was twiddling my thumbs in the great city of Tipton, trying not to go home to my sick child, and a call went right out and I took it instantly, and right there alone that can save us $200 by having that person. Not to mention the other minor things like we were out the door in 60 seconds or less. We had that advanced support available to our patient from the moment we got there. And I've had that, 2 or 3 times this week already where if I wasn't around, that we'd be calling a separate agency and we'd really have to deal with some fairly critical patients. I think that this is a great way of being progressive. To answer your other part, Leanne, I really just killed this thing down. Ideally, I'd like to see a couple full-timers and a couple part-timers to fill in those
And
gaps.
did you say the payment to volunteers is about the same as what it was this last year?
No.
Is that increased too?
The payment to volunteers is $58,000 right now. It's down by $2,000. The assumption is that the current paid employee that I have with me was going to go to a full-time, and they've expressed they want to go down to a part-time. So I need to readjust that number to allow for just that. Does that kind of answer your question right there? I anticipate that number is going to be 92,000 is what, for part-time by the time you flip over the suggested full-time for Hanson down to a part-time at 30 hours a week budgeting, and then hopefully executing about 24 to 26 hours a week.
I will ask, when you came up, did you tell us the amount of the increase for this budget from last year?
No, but I sure will.
Okay.
Current budget that I have on my sheet, unless I'm reading it wrong, is $259,601. The proposed budget is $509,797. Difference is $150,196.
So with the payment to other agencies, is that, I'm seeing in my head like scales, full-time equivalent payment to agencies.
I love this scale because we know for a fact that we're paying out this money every single year. And although it's difficult to estimate what type of return we would see if we brought on a person, what I mean by that is if I schedule somebody 8 to 4, or, I don't know, 2000 to 000, that's great, that covers that, but the second the call comes in at 03, I just lost out on that opportunity, if that makes sense. I find, and I've been telling our new paramedic students, the second you put a paramedic on a truck, the likelihood of that call increasing from a BLS 1 call, which is our lowest charge, to an ALS 1 is very quick. As paramedics, we always see different opportunities and different ways that we can continue to help our patient and diagnose them with issues to better their health care. I think this is one of those times where we could say bringing on a paramedic is going to reduce those costs for sure, especially if we continue to follow the data for staffing by looking at when our calls are coming in statistically during the day or during the evening and shoving that individual right there. I think we can really chase those calls. The other side of it is that if we were to just run them, say 8 to 4, whatever you want to call it, if we already have another team on and we've got that person, I can shove that second truck out the door to say head towards Clarence or towards Mechanicsville and take on opportunities that we've never seen before. And those, once again, we can go for those ALS 1 charges very quickly. I've been seeing, here a couple months ago, it was our turn to be on the spotlight for missing calls. I'm seeing the other communities in our area shining at it right now. I'd like nothing more than to help them out and truthfully profit from that ability. So to sum it up, I'd like to send them the $200 charge.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else? Well, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Ratliff.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, just so that everybody knows, our last one's from the public library, and Denise Smith, the director, said she expects a $470 increase over last year. So, moving on from that, Tim, did you want to talk about the property tax proposed increase that we had?
Be going off memory, but I'll do my best. And we had a meeting last month with the council at the end of the day, and the purpose of that was discussion of the property tax levy. And out of that meeting, we had talked about the maximum amount within the state code and with Tipton's background valuation, the maximum amount of additional funding that could be levied. The discussion would have, we looked at the cost to the person who owned a $100,000 home, and if what I remember, somebody else will sort me out on this if I'm wrong, but what I remember is that if we had maximized the levy available, a person with that $100,000 house would have seen something like a $40 to $50 a year increase in their real estate tax bill. And the council talked about moving partway toward that, so that $100,000 homeowner would see a 20-something dollar increase in their tax bill. And I think it generated something between $70,000 and $100,000 of additional revenue for the city. So that's where we as staff took the proposed levy, was partway towards the maximum that could be derived from the existing tax structure in Tipton.
All right. And with your experience, what can you forecast what you would recommend for going ahead?
Well, being the guy who uttered the word resignation 15 minutes ago, I say all courage that I would recommend that you advance the levy to at or near its maximum to be able to be generating sufficient funds to shift again from heavy reliance on the electric utility for funding. We're essentially creating a proto-tax through your utilities to operate your general fund, which holds down your taxes, but creates a draw on your enterprise funds. It's not the only town in Iowa that does that. But I would suggest moving toward the maximum that you can draw based on people's real estate tax. It's also kind of important to remember that you can write off, if you have any kind of income at all, you can write off your income tax expense. So you get a 20 to 30% break from your federal taxes as a result of that. You don't get to do that on your utility bill. So from where I sit and compared to where Tipton is relative to other Iowa communities, your tax rates are in the middle to low compared to those comparable communities. So I would look at that and consider the larger bite.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Long. Moving on to the reports. Mayor's report. Mr. Long and myself met with a consultant from Smart Source. Is that the name of them?
Yes.
They help communities develop a municipally owned telecom, which would, in a sense, have Tipton-owned internet, phone, and also the cable television. It's a very encouraging meeting. Of course, the numbers that were brought up were from similarly sized communities in the Northwest. This gentleman said that in general, if there's a 40% buy-in from the community, from the households, that's about the break-even point for the municipally owned telecom. And no community that he has worked with is at less than 80%. So that would allow us to bring the fiber optic speeds to Tipton and us own that. And then also, this is just kind of neat in my head, instead of people having dish on their TV, it would say like Tipton cable television or something like that, because we would own that as well. And that's my report. Council report, Mr. Lieber.
I'll pass those out after I'm done. I was honored to represent Tipton at a recent Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities workshop held in Ankeny this past January 24th. On returning, I met with Tim Long and expressed that each city council member would have benefited greatly by attending such an enlightening presentation. I was afforded an extra book of the agenda, which Tim has in his possession, so each one will be able to review at your own prerogative. I noticed he has also put it on our laptops. It's my belief that the knowledge each one would gain from this book would make us a more effective representative of the people of Tipton. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. We, the council, are in the process of hiring a city manager. Since he or she will have prior experience, our responsibility will be to furnish them the tools they need to be effective, and this came from the school, and then get out of the way. Let them do their job. We must keep in mind the concerns of the people we represent and uphold what is best for the majority of citizens of Tipton. I have a little pass out. I'm not going to pass out.
Would you like me to pass out, Steph?
Will you? I get them this way, so it's covered, and upside down.
And face down.
We'll do them this way. 2 pages, each one. You go that way, I'll go this way.
All right.
Okay? Now, don't turn it over yet.
What's the penalty if we do?
Well, you're cheating yourself if you do. And everybody else is here. Huh?
Inclusivity.
You don't need to really. This is one of the last things I learned at the conference. It was fun. I stayed at my sister and did a lot of honeydew things that she hadn't had done for a while.
Right, we published it once. Oh, it was a maybe.
The last thing they told us before they dismissed us and sent people off to the snow that was coming across the northern part of Iowa was this little thing. Turn it over.
Both of them?
What does it say?
Think outside the box.
There you go.
Thank you.
No matter which way you look at it, north, south, east, or west, think outside the box.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Julie.
You'll be amazed at what you can come up with when you think outside the box.
All right, and then that was the council report, committee report. City manager report.
Thanks, Mayor. Council members all got a copy of the community profile for the city manager advertisement emailed to you, and that came Sunday, and any number of us have found the typical typos and such, and have returned that to Callahan to have finalized. And I'm here to ask if generally you find this an acceptable document, typos to be corrected, et cetera.
Yes.
Heads nodding, we'll let him know that it's ready to go.
Tim, I did talk to him today, I did find some typos, and he asked me to give them to you tonight.
Okay, I will,
Leave that with you after the meeting.
all right, I'll convey those to him. So with that, we'll say it's accepted, and this goes on the website, and they'll be posting this across the country. Also, Pat will, as scheduled, as you agreed from the last meeting, Pat will lead community forum where people can talk to members of the council and himself about what they're looking for in a city manager. That is on February 21st at 5:30, and here.
No, at the library.
At the library, that's right, the library basement, because here was occupied. So it's the library meeting.
5:30.
5:30, the 21st. So that's, the community's invited, and Pat will lead that forum. And I believe that's all I got, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Long. Department heads, finance director.
A couple of things. First of all, I wanted to let you know that we received a check from IAMU Safety Group for having reduced costs on our workers' comp for $13,384.47. So that's kind of a nice chunk.
Nice pat on the back.
And the other thing I wanted to inform you about is our postage machine and our folder inserters have come to the end of their useful life and maintenance agreement. So I reached out to, we have an email list called the Clerk's Net, and to see what was out there besides Pitney Bowes. And the League of Cities recommend this NeoPost system. So I put that out there, and I had a young lady contact me from the Quad Cities area and gave us a proposal to lease both machines. And with that lease price, it includes the equipment, meter rental, rate change protection, and maintenance for $286.26 a month, which I feel is a pretty good deal. We could purchase them, but then our maintenance and all that's on us. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and do this. We have to do something. The girls have been fighting the stuff, or it's eating the utility bills. We have to reprint them and then stuff them by hand, and that's just not very efficient. So that's what I wanted you to know. We're going to move forward with that unless somebody has an objection. Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you. Chief.
Just a side note, I did not ask for more staff.
Thank you.
Last week, our officer from Alaska, who's a certified Alaskan officer, took his test at ILEA in Johnston. It was a 7-hour test, and he passed it. So that was a good thing that we were able to utilize his services while he was studying for that. I was asked to come up and talk about 2 issues going on in town. The first one was on the front page of the paper regarding the 2 black males that had broke into somebody's house, and those are all facts that were printed in the paper. I think the information came to the newspaper anonymously, and Stuart asked me to verify. The house was targeted specifically. I just wanted to let people know that it wasn't a random, hey, let's go into this town and find a house. We have an active investigation going on, and we have some leads, and we actually have done a photo lineup, and 1 person has been identified. So just so you know, we're actively investigating, and we're on that. The second one was the flower pots. We have some leads. Again, someone came forward anonymously right now. We've asked them to call Crime Stoppers so they could get any monies that might be available to them. We're doing interviews into the names of the people that they gave us. We're also working with Jab Inc. His cameras did not pick up anything, but just so you know, we are actively investigating that, and we have some more interviews to do on that. We've started the interview process, trying to find everybody who was there and getting people to actually talk. So on those 2 kind of big incidences, that's what's been going on. So I'm going to give you an update.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Community Development Director, anything? All right.
And I didn't ask for more stuff.
And EMS Director with the phone system.
I'll make it quick for you. I am ecstatic about the phone system update that we have. Last time we spoke, you guys had indicated go ahead and move forward with starting the meetings to really get this thing kicked off. The other day, I sat down with ITP as well as with REM Communications, and we did a brief 4-hour walkthrough of the city to identify every single piece of copper that we have in this city for phone lines, and it was great. Initially, the REM Communications estimate was $960 a month. After reviewing it, $970.
Savings.
Oh,
No, $960 a
Yeah.
month was the price tag for the quote, for consolidation of phones and internet. We brought it up to $1,500, and here's why. We identified a number of extra lines, telephone lines, fax lines, OPX lines, that did not exist on the Windstream bills, that they're there. It's concerning, but it's not surprising. I don't think any of us were necessarily alarmed by those, but we were happy to find those, so there's no extra surprise costs that were jumping out. The other side of it was we were able to go down to the library and look at the airport as well, and find additional phone lines that we were never anticipating taking over, and find solutions to do that. The goal with this would be any line that we're not able to convert over to the phone system because of logistics, or such as the library not being able to wire it up, or the airport where we don't have fiber going out there. Arion could resell us those lines at a discounted rate. I believe the phone lines right now are about $69 a month for a business line without any long distance on them. Arion would be able to consolidate that down to $50 a month for those lines, so we'd see a savings. The library, the pool, we also found a cost-saving solutions. Since the library does not have the current IP phones or wired for those, we'd be able to bring phones over fiber to the pool and then convert them to a copper line and see an increased cost savings there. The nice thing about this is we identified over a couple of years how we could take that $1,500 and reduce it even more by converting additional telephones or telephone lines from those copper analog lines, they're called IP POTS lines, to complete PRI or complete digital lines, which would reduce us another $75 to $200 a month, depending on how many lines we're able to consolidate over time. I love this idea. I think it's going to be far more reliable. Everybody knows about the MediaCon outage. You can say Windstream is not one that was affected, but looking at something like this, if we were to see an issue ever go down, we have a 2-hour response time, back up within about 4 hours max. I think it's a great option. ROI on it, Tim's telling me to say how much we're saving on money, over $1,000 a month easily. So an ROI on this, if we're looking at a project that is 15,000-ish, 14 months. And I have a great place to put that money that you're saving, Leanne.
Awesome.
Yeah, right over here. All right. That didn't go over
I
well,
think
did
it
it?
would be lovely if you did, when you mentioned cable, phone and TV, and high, fiber optics. So if you're doing this, is there gonna be redundancy, are they gonna be compatible?
No. Two different things.
Two totally different phones.
Yes. Thank you, Brad.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Brad.
All right, is there a motion for adjournment?
Can I just,
Oh, wait, sorry.
can I just get a clarification sometime on that meeting time for Thursday? I had 6:30 down on the.
Yeah, it's very,
So I wanna
it
make sure I
got
get the
changed.
right time.
late.
They say 5 now.
So I just wanna make sure I get the right time.
Yes, sir.
I think I came late, I was a visitor on your.
Remember, you and I had
Okay,
6:30.
hold on.
Is that 5?
You're blanking on your name.
Steve.
Yes. Would anybody
That
want
was
to?
tabled.
That was tabled.
Yeah, you have to make a
That
motion
was
to take
taken
it off the table.
to make after, take action.
Would anybody want to?
The alternative would be bring it back to the next meeting.
It's up to you guys. You want to make that motion? I'm making a motion to take street dance request off the table and bring it back on. McNeil with the first.
I don't know what we're doing.
The fellow who wasn't here for the street dance request is here now. I'd like to discuss it now, but it was tabled, so it could come back next meeting, or you can,
Or
someone makes a second, and it can be
Mr.
discussed
McNeil, yeah,
now.
made the first now to bring.
Second.
All right, Lieber with the second.
McNeil?
Yes.
Boots?
Quick.
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
All right, come on over. Steve?
I apologize for being late. I guess I was told to start at 7, so I thought it was actually early. Anyhow, I want to introduce myself to everyone. I'm Steve Sparvell. I own the Tiger's Den. And I want everybody to kind of know me because I know it's the type of business some people are worried about. If there's going to be trouble or anything with the community, I want a very open door. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to come in, talk with me, call me. I'll come visit you, whatever it takes. I've owned the Onion Grove in Clarence for 4.5 years. I think I've been a pretty good business in that town. I'm on the Clarence City Council as we speak, and we've definitely tried to be a friend to the community, not my neighbors. I make sure I talk to all my neighbors and everything if we're ever trying to do anything. This meeting right here was kind of just to fill you out as far as how you felt about street dances. I know in Clarence they allowed me to have one the first year. It went over without a problem. Everybody was happy with it, and then we started to able to do more. A little difference in Clarence where we do everything in my parking lot. It's big enough to hold everything, so we're not blocking off a street. Obviously, where the Tiger's Den is located, you have to, if you're going to do something outside, it has to be on the street. So I guess I just kind of wanted to get a feel if you guys are... I understand the security, the fencing, the insurance, all the liability that comes with it. I've obviously done this a few times now, so I know what it's going to take. I've already talked to the Family Foods and the car lot, and they both thought it was great ideas to do something like this. So I definitely don't want to step on anybody's toes that might think it's going to be loud or obnoxious, bothering a neighbor. And so I want everybody on board to say, yeah, proceed or not proceed, but I do understand the steps I have to take for this to happen.
Okay.
Any questions or comments to me on concerns or?
Would it be live music or would you have a DJ?
It would be live music.
Okay.
To take Mr. Leeper's step, I'd like to think outside the box. I'd like to bring, local bands are nice and everything, but you all seen them 100 times. I'd like to try to bring traveling groups around that. From Nashville, I've had a great guy named Dallas Hendricks. He's actually from Muscatine originally, but he's in Nashville now. Someday we're going to hear him on the radio. He's great. That was an amazing show they put on for us up there in Clarence. Actually, what I have up there once a year, because they didn't have a festival when I came to that town, so we put on a thing called the Onion Fest, and we try to get a bigger name act to come to that. I ain't going to say somebody that's famous, but they're on their way. Obviously, I don't want to do anything that's going to interfere with events that we already have here in this town, so I would pick weekends that it's not going to be at the same time. You know, I want to work with the events here too just as much as anybody. It's, to me, success in Tipton's, my business could be more successful as everybody else is involved with all the events here. We want to bring people to the town to enjoy this town.
All right. Sounds of that.
This has happened in the past, Steve. They've used 6th Street with council and police approval and had street dances there, so I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've heard that. That's why. You know, every city council is different. When I first went to Clarence, they actually had a 3-2 vote against me getting a liquor license the first time. So, you know, now all 5 people on the council. I know sometimes you say if you can't beat them, join them. So I think that's why I got on the council. But yeah, now everybody's trying to get the town to grow. So same thing here. You know, progression is always better than staying stagnant.
All right. And in your document that you had in the packet, you had asked about no parking from 2 a.m.
Yeah, the signs out there say no parking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I guess I just wonder why you have that. Obviously, in my business there's times I don't want somebody to drive home and I'm going to get them a ride, and I want their car to stay there. And I don't want to see them get a ticket while their car's there. I guess that's only my concern is if there's, other than snow, I understand that. And if a car's sitting there for days, why we would restrict somebody from leaving their vehicle.
lots of times they sweep the streets overnight also downtown. And then Lisa may have some more information on that too.
Steve, anytime someone calls us and says, hey, this vehicle's gonna be here overnight, we give this person a ride home, and you give us the description of the license plate, we do that too.
Okay, then I'll just go that route then.
We don't want them driving.
Perfect.
All right. Anything else?
All
right,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
coming
your
down.
time.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you much. All right, so now if there's a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Lieber with the first,
I'll second.
and Boots with the second.
Lieber?
Yes.
Neal?
Yes.
Booth?
Yeah.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear? Yes.
All right,